pikipiki.
Mulitani sitaomoka.
Ni yako.
Hii nduthi ni yangu. Niliwahi pale quick bid. 99 shillings juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder.
399 shillings.
Quick bid shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi 2 unaweza nunua micro. Shilingi 5 unaweza nunua hata gari.
So tupeleke huko hata
mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na quick bid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quick bid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Coronavirus disease is now spreading within counties in Kenya, from person to person through contact with droplets when an infected person speaks, coughs or sneezes, or through touching contaminated surfaces and objects. Anybody with a weakened body immunity has a greater risk of contracting coronavirus disease. People living with pre-existing medical conditions such as HIV, cancer, TB, diabetes among others must adhere to their treatment to strengthen immunity and therefore should ensure they have a constant supply of necessary medicines. Contact your clinic or health facility for information on how to access treatment. Help others within your network to access adequate supply of essential medicines. Ensure that you remain connected with your local networks for any support and follow the medical guidelines provided by your health facility to prevent coronavirus. Remember to stay updated with information on coronavirus using only trusted reliable channels. For more information on COVID-19, call 719 or dial *719#. COVID-19 is preventable. Protect yourself, your family, and the community. This message has been brought to you by the Government of Kenya and its partners. Next on.
Watu wameenda pale, wameamka asubuhi, wamepanga foleni vizuri.
Watu wako wengi. Nilikuwa nakwambia uje mapema. Hakuna haja tupange line si wote. Wewe tu nilipia alafu utaleta huko tutapatana huko ndani ofisi. Una nusu. Acha nihudumiwe nimaliziwe niende.
Unamaliziwa na ngoja unamaliziwa kwani si pia hataki kumaliziwa.
Uko hapo? Yaani kwanza line. Sasa hii ni maneno gani tena? Ni nini inaendelea hapa? Ama line inaanzia huko pia mimi niende nikasimame huko nyuma.
Wewe mzee hapana bwana. Unajua wengine tumepanda mabasi.
Kwa hakika hii ni tabia ambayo inaudhi sana.
Next on.
Havana unana. Half of my heart is in Havana unana.
Anza kwa 2019. Nikapata tumechaguliwa hiyo.
We are reading a book called Big Bag, Round Bag, Berries Bag.
I'm going to teach you how to do magic painting.
Oh na na na, Havana unana.
Next on.
Hizo haki za barabara ambazo Muislamu anafaa kuzingatia kila wakati anapokuwa barabarani. Na mojawapo ya haki hizi ni kuwa Muislamu anapaswa kuondoa udhia barabarani, kwa sababu ukiondoa udhia barabarani, insha Allah unajijengea nyumba yako katika pepo ya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Fikita?
On the next episode of
Chaivo. Yaani hata natamani asirudi kabisa.
Tizame basi, mimi nikikuchukua wewe, yeye hawezi kufanya lolote.
Jamani, Mungu amshari wewe.
Fanya hivi. Jifiche. Hapana, sitajificha wewe.
Tafadhali nakuomba. Jifiche hapa.
Nakuja tumenyana.
Fanya hivi, sikiza bwana.
Ofanyani.
Zavangua mume wangu.
Next on.
Havana unana. Half of my heart is in Havana unana.
Anza kwa 2019. Nikapata tumechaguliwa hiyo.
We are reading a book called Big Bag, Round Bag, Berries Bag.
I'm going to teach you how to do magic painting.
Oh na na na, Havana, unana.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
I am too young and handsome to die at this age. You are never driving me again in your vehicle. You almost made me puke my intestine.
Hi, Farah, come on. What do you expect from us, Hub?
Jesse, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing. That doesn't look like nothing.
But that is what my heart is telling me to.
You better tell your heart to shut up.
Mama Kenyanjui, you're back, eh?
Kwani nilikuwa nikuja nikutafute nikuhabarisha.
I see what is happening here. Like mother, like son, opportunistic people.
This is enough. Please,
out. I will report you to women rights.
Go ahead. Report. Iko nini?
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Next on.
That woman can arouse passions. Emma hates her. She's so angry. She even threatened to kill her. Imagine that. It's very rude of you to come to my house at this time of night.
I know, but I don't care. Amaya, I'm here to try for the last time. Please tell me that it's not too late to start a relationship with you.
I'm telling you, you can't marry Max.
Salvador, you have to understand me. I'm begging you. I love Max. I'm marrying him, and there's nothing you can do to stop me.
Good evening. At a time when, Kenya drew there against Egypt on the AFCON qualifier game, their question is Kenya going to proceed to play for pride or for nothing? That's a question you can answer to yourself, given that we have open lines of communication on social media as KBC Channel 1. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1, indeed, on Twitter. I'm Regina. Manyara, thank you for making time. You're watching KBC Business Insight. Now, over to those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours.
Age ain't just a number. Persons aged 58 years and above to be included in the first phase of COVID-19 vaccination. We will tell you why. A brush with death? Kisumu enforcement officers involved in the dragging of a female trader in the streets suspended. And tourism amid COVID. It is not all gloom after all, as hotels register increased domestic bookings ahead of the Easter holiday.
Good evening once again. Thank you for making time. Now on to those stories. We start off with matters health, where the Ministry of Health has prioritized vaccination of persons aged 58 years and above under the first phase of the exercise currently ongoing. Now the ministry says the decision was informed by the fact that people in this age group were at a higher risk of contracting the disease and accounted for 60% of the recorded deaths so far. This coming as 26 more people succumbed to COVID-19, while 1,463 new infections were recorded today.
Persons aged 58 years and above will now be able to access the COVID-19 jab under the first phase of vaccination that initially targeted frontline workers. The chairman of the COVID-19 Vaccine Deployment Task Force, Dr. Willis Ahwale, says they accounted for 60% of recorded deaths, hence the need to be protected at a time when the third wave of infections has hit the country. The Ministry of Health further appealing to all political, religious and community leaders to take the jab to boost confidence in the vaccination process. In the meantime, 1,463 people have tested positive for COVID-19 in the last 24 hours out of 8,976 samples tested. Another 26 patients have died, out of whom 3 died in the last 24 hours and 23 on diverse dates. 498 patients have made full recovery, pushing the total to 91,268. The number of patients admitted in hospital stands at 1,080, out of whom 121 are in the intensive care unit. Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Still keeping up with matters of COVID is that at least 60 persons have been arrested for flouting COVID-19 regulations and have been sentenced to 1 day of community service by Akibera Law Court. Subsequently, the law breakers who assembled at Uhuru Park were deployed to start the community service in different parts of the country after they were handed over to the Nairobi Metropolitan Services.
This is the picture to Uhuru Park on Thursday afternoon. Over 60 persons found flouting COVID-19 regulations assembled here ready to begin their non-custodial sentence after the Kibra Law Court sentenced them to a day of community service. They were later handed over to the Nairobi Metropolitan Service under the Directorate of Enforcement to undertake community service. According to Justice Cecilia Githua, the sentence has been ongoing since the implementation of the Community Service Act in 1998.
It is eligible as an alternative to imprisonment, because that is another way of decongesting our prisons. Because there are so many people who do not need to find themselves in prison. There's another form of way, there's another alternative to correcting offenders that do not need to be corrected in prison.
According to the Nairobi Metropolitan Service Chief Enforcement Officer Dr. Mark Lelerook, non-custodial order will deter the public from breaking the law and heed to COVID-19 regulations.
This one is working very well, particularly for NMS, receiving free labor. I think for us, it's a better way of utilizing these Kenyans who have free time to travel and, partying around. So I think this is highly welcomed and we hope to continue partnering.
Lelerook observes that young people are moving from clubs to house parties and called on the public to report such incidences.
And therefore we want to appeal to Kenyans that in case you see a gathering that is unusual, kindly report to a nearby police station or even to the nearby chief.
The development coming 2 days after 57 others were subjected to a similar punishment of cleaning the city. For Channel 1 News, I'm Serafina Robbie.
Now, careful that you do not get yourself in a similar situation. Maintain social distancing, mask properly, do the hand washing, maintain curfew hours. Now, a section of leaders from Baringo County have raised concern over what they term as negligence in handling COVID-19 patients in the county. Pastor William Torotich is said to have died while being transferred to Mogotio Isolation Center while on critical condition without proper care. Local leaders now want action taken against those involved.
Emotions ran high in Kapkombe location of Baringo North Sub-County during the burial of Pastor William Toroitich, who succumbed to COVID-19 related complications. According to a section of local leaders, the cleric's death was caused by what they term as negligence by those who are handling him at the Mogotio Isolation Center. The leaders claiming that the deceased was given a referral without following due process, yet he was in a critical condition, calling for an immediate restructuring of the medical facilities management.
Tunaambiwa huyu William Toroitich ambaye amelala wakati alipokuwa referred alikaa bila oxygen for 8 hours. Unfortunate. Na tungependa kushtumu maafisa wa afya wali mismanage hii case. Hata kama ilikuwa imejulikana ni nini ilikuwa imemshika, si wangehandle yeye kwa njia inayofaa.
They also claim that the isolation center is ill-equipped and lack the capacity to handle COVID-19 patients. The Mogotio Isolation Center has since been closed and Ward 4 of the Baringo County Referral Hospital converted into a COVID-19 treatment unit.
The hospital is piped to the walls. The number of oxygen points is a lot. For example, in that ward, you currently have 6 oxygen points, which you can multiply to 12 if need be. Also, that facility has the capacity to ventilate patients if necessary. Therefore, this was a measure that we took, having in mind what we are seeing and what we anticipate going forward. More so, we also have specialists and a critical number of staff that are able to handle such cases in this referral facility as opposed to Mogotio.
So far, the county has recorded 339 positive cases of COVID-19, with 7 people having succumbed to the deadly virus.
The key message, one is to those who are eligible for vaccination in this first phase, that is the teachers, our healthcare workers, and members of the discipline force. I would say let us take advantage of the additional tool that has been made available for us, that is the vaccine. As a county, we launched the vaccination a week ago, and it's ongoing. So we are going to do it in each of our sub-county hospitals. Then to the residents of Baringo, I would urge that we don't drop our guard. Let us continue observing all the guidelines that have been given.
Hata mimi nataka niwaombe wananchi wa Saimo Kipsaraman, wananchi wote kwa dunia mzima. Please let us follow the rules. Sheria ya kunawa mkono, sheria ya kuvaa maski na salamu. Wacha salamu iwe nini? Let us wave.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Achieng Ouma.
The Law Society of Kenya, Nyanza chapter, and the Federation of Women Lawyers are demanding an apology from the county government of Kisumu over a female hawker who was mishandled by the county and enforcement officers. Now, the two legal outfits want those involved in the unfortunate act brought to book with immediate effect. This came as Governor Nyong'o suspended all the 12 enforcement officers involved in the incident.
Wednesday's shocking incident when a female hawker was shamelessly dragged along Kisumu streets for operating in an undesignated area continued to receive condemnation from various quarters, even as the county executive moved to save face by suspending those involved in the heinous act.
Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, from the onset, on behalf of the governor of the county of Kisumu, on behalf of the government and on behalf to apologize to the women of Kisumu and to the women of Kenya for what may have transpired yesterday.
The 12 enforcement officers involved in the incident have since been suspended by the governor.
It is not in the interest of the governor, of the deputy governor, or of the county to infringe on anybody's right, be they women, men, children, or those living with disabilities.
The Law Society of Kenya and the Federation of Women Lawyers have joined in condemning the incident that has cast a spotlight on the crude manner in which the enforcement officers in the county are executing their mandate.
The circumstances in which this situation occurred is not clear. However, the harrowing, inhuman, and degrading manner in which this woman trader was handled in public and in broad daylight is utterly despicable, and to say the least.
Many cases are being reported to us that people's rights are being violated. Today we stand here and we are telling the county that if you're not going to do things in order, if you're not going to respect people's businesses, then we are here to protect this.
It's very unfortunate that in a month where we are celebrating the gains that have been made to the women, that is March, we are having gross violation of women's rights in Kisumu County.
Achola Simon, reporting for Channel 1 News from Kisumu County.
What is your take in regard to the action that has been taken against the 12 enforcement officers there? Remember, our communication lines remain open, our Twitter handle being at KBC Channel 1 News. In other stories is that President Uhuru Kenyatta has reaffirmed his commitment in building a cohesive and progressive Kenyan society through participatory processes such as the Building Bridges initiative. Alongside BBI, President Uhuru Kenyatta underscored the renewed fight against corruption through the multi-agency approach and the work that being done by both the National Cohesion and Integration Commission as well as the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights.
To address national security concerns, we have restructured and reorganized the National Government Coordination Framework and created more administrative units and strengthened police reforms, including reorganization of the National Police Service and established a National Crime Research Center. We have initiated the Building Bridges initiative, culminating in the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, and this bill seeks to comprehensively address our perennial challenges, particularly those arising from political transitions, negative ethnicity, lack of inclusion, inequitable development, and our fight against corruption. On progress under the Social Economic Development Pillar, my administration recognizes the centrality of the health sector in economic development and realization of fundamental human rights. An intergovernmental participatory agreement was signed, clarifying the roles of the national government and county governments in health service delivery. This is the background, Excellencies, against which I present highlights of our achievements covering the 4 APRM thematic pillars. These are, number 1, democracy and political governance. Secondly, corporate governance. Thirdly, social economic development. And fourth, the economic governance and management pillar. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is in the middle of the national governance reporting process, having been selected to pilot this crucial initiative that hopefully will replace annual progress reporting based on our 17-year interaction with the APRM process.
On that note, we take a short break. We'll be right back.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 399 shillings. Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi 2 unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi 5 unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii ya jitume mwenyewe kwa simu yako, bonyeza *811 *963 #.
Unavyojikakamua kupata ufanisi, ndivyo utakavyofurahi baada ya kufanikiwa. Usisubiri kusukumwa na mtu, jitume mwenyewe.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii, bonyeza *811 *963 hash, *811 *963 hash.
Jumapili hii kwenye runinga ya KBC, ungana naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu kuanzia saa 1 hadi saa 2 asubuhi.
Ningetaka nikwambie, our Jehovah God, because the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today and forevermore. He is able to take you to a place of abundance. He is able to take you to Rehoboth in the name of Jesus Christ.
Kipindi ni neno la neema, ukiletewa naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu. Usikose.
Next on.
Watu wameenda pale, wameamka asubuhi, wamepanga foleni vizuri.
Watu wako wengi. Nilikuwa nakwambia uje mapema. Hakuna haja tupange line si wote. Wewe tu nilipia alafu utaleta huko tafatana huko ndani ofisi. Na nusu. Acha nihudumiwe nimaliziwe niende.
Unamaliziwa na unamaliziwa kwani si pia hataki kumaliziwa?
Uko hapo? Kwenye line. Sasa hii ni maneno gani tena? Ni nini inaendelea hapa? Ama line inaanzia na huko pia mimi niende nikasimame huko nyuma.
Wewe mzee hapana bwana. Unajua wengine tumepanda mabasi.
Kwa hakika hii ni tabia ambayo inaudhi sana.
Good evening once again. You're watching Business Insights and I'm Regina. Manyara. Now to the political scene, where the political parties under the new formation, Sacred Alliance, now says they will be teaming up going forward. The formation that brings together KANU, Wiper, Ford Kenya, Amani National Congress says it will be supporting single candidates as a win in 3 by-elections had emboldened their resolve for unity. This coming even as United Democratic Alliance Party maintains that it had drawn lessons from the losses in the by-elections to re-engineer its campaign.
The Sacred Alliance, which brings together 4 political parties, is now beaming with confidence, timing their win in 3 constituencies as a sign of good things ahead. The alliance, which comprises Ford Kenya, Wiper, KANU and ANC, promising to stick together and change the political equation in the country. As a sign of goodwill, the parties say they will not file candidates in 2 by-elections in support of Jubilee candidates to reciprocate.
This alliance will not field a candidate in Juja. We will support the Jubilee candidate as well. And this alliance will now not field candidates in Bonchari. We will campaign for Jubilee.
We are going to pull them out in order to give the Jubilee party a head start and a sure win in those by-elections.
So that we can have a common objective, develop issues of solutions together.
As the governor of Kajiado and the mass spokesperson, and also a regional leader for the BBI in the South Rift, I'm very happy that the conversation that the president began about uniting the country is gradually coming to pass.
We have no spokesman as a Maasai community. We are part of Kenya. We have leaders who are elected. representing constituencies, representing counties, representing wards, and at no time have the Maasai people decided to be tribal and to have tribal spokesmen.
Welcome all of us.
But as the Sacred Alliance was parading its win, the United Democratic Alliance camp was trying to analyze its dismal performance in the by-elections. They termed the move by the Sacred Alliance to support the Jubilee Party as cowardice.
From the success we had in Msambweni, the success we had in London Ward, and the challenges we had in Matungu, Kabuchai, and Machokos will be the reason why we are going to make mincemeat of our competitors in Bawanchari and in Nyandarua Ward.
Thank you. This as United Green Movement unveiled former Kisii women representative Mary Sally Kira as its flag bearer in the 18th May Bonchari parliamentary by-election. UGM party leader Agostino Neto at the same time took issue with the Sacred Alliance, saying it has nothing new to offer Kenyans.
We're here as a party, and we are a little bit disturbed that a group of politicians who've been here for the past 20, 30 years can be telling Kenyans that they're the new leadership that Kenya deserves.
And Kericho Governor Paul Chepkwony has nominated Lily Chepngetich Ngok as his deputy governor. Ngok will now replace the late Susan Kikwai, who passed on 20th this month. Isufar, Channel 1 News.
Now, the Dab MP Dahir Duale has opposed plans by Interior Ministry to close down refugee camps in 2 weeks. Now, Dahir says the government is a signatory to Refugees Convention that guarantees the rights of refugees and obligations of the state to protect them. United Nations High Commission of Refugees has also called on the government to reconsider the decision to close the camps in the next 2 weeks. In regard to that particular story, as we continue with Business Insight. Now to the health sector, is that a hospital is set to open up its doors in Kerugoya town in Kirinyaga County to improve access to health care services. Now, the over 300 bed capacity facility is now 70% complete and will be commissioned before the end of the year. Our reporter Caroline Kemau was in Kerugoya and filed the following report.
The coronavirus pandemic has driven the country to relook and lay more emphasis on its healthcare system amid challenges brought by the virus. And with the focus now shifting to county governments to improve the healthcare system, the construction of Kerugoya Level 5 Referral Hospital is at an advanced stage. A signature project of Governor Anne Waiguru, the hospital will be the first of its kind in the region.
We want to elevate this Kerugoya Hospital to a Level 5 so that also our medical practitioners can be motivated and we can also be able to serve our people well. This hospital will have an ICU. We don't have an ICU in this Kerugoya Hospital. It will have a HDU. We don't have a HDU. And we are proposing to also have a specialized unit when we are done with COVID, probably for cancer.
According to Dr. Gideon Mboro, a surgeon at the new hospital, the bed capacity will be 342 beds to complement the bed capacity at the Kerugoya Level 4 Referral Hospital.
It is important to note that out of those 342, 42, around 48 beds are actually specialized beds. That means we are going to give more specialized services than we had before. Among these specialized services is ICU with around 14 bed capacity, HDU with 6 bed capacity, burns unit, theaters, among others.
We are already 70% done in building the building. The plans are underway to equip the hospital and to have specialized healthcare workers.
Residents here elated by the new development, noting that they will not need to travel outside the county to seek specialized treatment.
Ile kitu sasa tungekuwa tunaomba ni ile services ambayo Level 5 itakuwa inapeana. Vile watu walikuwa wanatransfer kuenda pengine Nairobi, wengine wanaenda mpaka Thika, wengine wanaenda mpaka kule Kijambe. Hizo services zote ziweza kuletwa hapa Kerugoya.
We have never had an ICU in this hospital, and every week we do referrals to Nairobi or to regional hospitals in Nyeri And sometimes we can even stay for 3 days without getting a hospital with an ICU bed to refer the patient to.
Besides the hospital, Kerugoya town has undergone a complete transformation that has targeted markets as well as the road infrastructure.
The Kirinyaga County government has undertaken key transformative projects within the municipality. Now, this hospital project behind me is one of these projects that seeks to improve the county's infrastructure as a key enabler to social-economic development for the people of Kirinyaga County. Reporting for KBC in Kerugoya town, my name is Caroline Kamau.
Now to the details in regard to the closure of refugee camps, that is Dadaab and Kakuma. Now the Dadaab MP Dahir Duale has opposed those particular plans by the Interior Ministry to close down the refugee camps in the next 2 weeks. He says the government is a signatory to Refugees Convention that guarantees the rights of refugees and obligations of the state to protect them.
Barely a day after Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i issued 14 days ultimatum to United Nations High Commission of Refugees to close down the Dadaab and Kakuma refugee camps, Dadaab MP Dahir Duale has termed the idea radical.
The principle of non-refoulement is so fundamental that no reservations or derogations may be made to it. It provides that no one shall expel or return a refugee against his or her will.
Dahir says the rights of the refugees are guaranteed in international conventions and protocols that Kenyan government is a signatory. Further, the MP, whose constituency hosts the Dadaab refugee camp, wants the government to expedite the resolution of all Kenyans who have been captured in the refugee database by removal from the database and issue them with national IDs.
The refugees in that part of the country are ethnically Somalis. We speak the same language, we have the same culture, same religion. For 30 years, there has been a lot of integration, intermarriages. And you cannot just wake up one day and say, let me tell you for a fact, out of the 230,000 refugees in the Dadaab refugee camps today, over 100,000 of them were born in that camp.
The Dadaab refugee camp has been in operation for the last 30 years. The lawmaker wants the government to respect the tripartite agreement signed between Kenya, UNHCR and Somalia in 2013 that guides voluntary repatriation of refugees.
We have been requesting for the government to remove Kenyans from the refugee database. Those are genuine Kenyans. If today they want to evict those people, those Kenyans will be evicted. Will that be fair? It won't happen.
United Nations High Commission of Refugees has also called on the government to rethink the decision. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
Now to stories making headlines in the counties that police in Mwingi sub-county of Kitui County have begun investigations into the murder of a Mwingi primary school night guard after his body was found on Thursday lying within the school compound. According to Mwingi Central Police OCPD, the 69-year-old was hit on the head with a blunt object by unknown assailants and succumbed to his injuries. Details of this and other stories in our county news roundup.
According to Mwingi Primary School head teacher Joseph Muthoi, the school's main gates remained closed at the time he arrived in the school, which was not the norm. He said on entering the school through the smaller gate, he found the lifeless body of the watchman identified as Nyamai Siengo lying on the ground. The scene was documented by the DCI as a crime scene, and the body moved to Mwingi Level 4 Hospital mortuary.
Gate haijafunguliwa nikakuta amelala mahali damu imemwangika, so the first thing nilienda police station kuandikisha statement and I called the education office.
These are two suspects linked to the recent spate of killings and armed robberies in Naivasha that targeted taxi drivers in Nairobi, Kiambu and Naivasha have been charged in court. The third suspect could not be arraigned because he was in isolation at Industrial Area Prison due to COVID-19. In Migori County, residents found flouting COVID-19 containment protocols have been put on notice and will now be forced by authorities to execute community service as punishment for lack of wearing face masks in public.
Will be taken to court, but then this time around we are not encouraging any fine. We have requested the courts to commit those individuals to community service, so that they will assist us in cleaning the streets, cleaning social places, and doing any other work.
And Kenyans have been urged to take personal responsibility and observe COVID-19 containment protocols put in place by the Ministry of Health.
Mtu yote ambaye anaenda pahali kwa umma lazima avae barakoa, lazima sehemu za umma zote ziwe na maji ya kuosha mikono na vitu kama hizo.
Chanjo sio tiba. Ni vizuri tuelewe hivyo. Si hivyo tutaki tena pia watu wakuwe sasa zile maagizo za Idara ya Afya ya kujikinga, kuweka mask ama barakoa, kuoga mkono, hati hiyo sasa tutupilie mbali, kuweka social distance. Bado tuendelee kuzingatia yale maagizo, kwa sababu hii ugonjwa bado tujapata kinga haswa ama tiba.
Hii ugonjwa inamaliza kila mtu. Na tusingojee kusukumwa na president wetu, tusingojee kusukumwa na government, tusingojee kuangalia wale watu wakubwa. Sisi tumeletewa, therefore we should do the way the government need, that is to obey.
Elsewhere, with unemployment continually becoming a major headache in the country, youths in Thika, Kiambu County have joined the Juakali sector to equal living, shunning the negative perception that being an artisan is a career of last resort.
Ziko na bei, lakini although tumemake juu hata tukipata faida kidogo tunajua tutapewa, tukitengeneza kazi nzuri tutapewa tenda mingi, na hiyo tu faida kidogo, haba na haba hujaza kibaba.
Hawa ni vijana wetu, ni vijana tumesomesha, wamemaliza masomo yao, wamekuja hapa, wamechukua hizi courses, na ile kazi watatoa hapa. Ni unaona zile bidhaa wanatengeneza hapa, hata ziko na nguvu na ziko na maisha.
Finally, Uasin Gishu County Deputy Governor Daniel Chemno has urged the residents to play their patriotic role, come forth and pay all the county dues so as to enable the smooth running and implementation of the county projects.
There are programs that we must raise revenue so that we can be able to pay. We want to urge the residents of Uasin Gishu to be patriotic and come forth and pay the rates, the rent, and all the dues that are due for the county government to be able to realize its activities.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambura.
Well, up next after the break is Martha's Business. Do keep it right here.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii lazima nishike kwa simu yako, bonyeza *811 *962 hash.
Lazima nishike mapema. Nisiposhika hii simu mapema utakasirika. Unajua mimi nikiwa mtu ya marathon najua niko na experience kabisa. Niko na experience. If you don't hurry, you will not break the record. Okay, wacha nishike hii simu.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii bonyeza *811 *962 hash, *811 *962 hash.
Haya! Mtumishi! Ni wewe?
Ni mimi.
Ulitoa pikipiki?
Mulitani sitaomoka.
Ni yako?
Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit.
Quickbit?
Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder.
399 shillings.
Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari.
So tupeleke huko hata
mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndiyo hununua. Quickbid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
My name is Flint Lockwood, and I've always wanted to invent something awesome.
Heron boulder! Flying car! He wants to be smart, but that's lame! Can't you be more like my son, Cal? Sup?
Sup?
It really works! I love it!
Mamma mia. Tell me, with a chance of meatballs. Next on.
Hizo haki za barabara ambazo Muislamu anafaa kuzingatia kila wakati anapokuwa barabarani. Na mojawapo ya haki hizi ni kuwa Muislamu anapaswa kuondoa udhia barabarani, kwa sababu ukiondoa udhia barabarani, insha Allah unajijengea nyumba yako katika pepo ya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
On the next episode of
Chaivo. Yaani hata natamani asirudi kabisa.
Tizame basi, mimi nikikuchukua wewe, yeye hawezi kufanya lolote.
Jamani, Mungu amshari wewe.
Fanya hivi. Jifiche. Hapana, sitajificha wewe.
Afadhali nakuomba. Jifiche hapa.
Akuje tumenyana.
Fanya hivi, sikiza bwana.
Ofanyani.
Navaa nguo mume wangu.
Next on.
Havana, oh, nana. Half of my heart is in Havana, oh, nana.
Nianza kwa act 2019 nikapata tu nimechaguliwa hiyo.
We are reading a book called Big Bag, Round Bag, Very Smart.
We're going to teach you how to do magic painting.
Oh, na, na, na. Havana, oh, nana.
Thank you for keeping us company. Now we shift focus to matters business, where evacuation of cargo by rail has contributed to the speedy import of container deliveries, with a daily average of 1,000 tubes from the port of Mombasa to the inland container depot in Nairobi. Now, according to Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibisha, this points to the efficiency of rail as a mode of transport.
The highest SGR performance in January, with 241 trains clearing 24,256 TEUs. Speaking during a tour of the port facility, the Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho dismissed congestion claims, citing efficient handling of cargo at the port.
We know that this port handles 3 or maybe 4 types of cargo. There's cargo that is local, supposed to be removed from the port because it's destined to coast. There's cargo that is for transshipment. There's cargo that is going to our neighboring countries, and there's cargo that is going mainly to Nairobi. And what we've been tracking is how efficiently we handle each of those components. That's the tour that we are doing, and I can confidently say that we did not detect any congestion.
Kibicho further noted that evacuation of cargo by rail had significantly contributed to the speedy import containers deliveries, with a daily average of 1,000 TEUs ferried by 10 to 11 trains from the port of Mombasa to the inland container depot in Nairobi.
When we went to the SGR yard, you saw that there's a train there just parked waiting for the ships to be offloaded. It's ready to take cargo to Nairobi, but it can't go half. So we still have to create enough, and as you are aware, when it's single stack, it carries 108 40-foot containers, and we're waiting for the 108 to reach, because the one that we found there reached the 108 and left as we watched. And therefore, what we are trying now to improve is, can we be creating the 108 from the ships as quickly as possible? But in terms of congestion, it is not anything that we are worried about at all.
Following easing of COVID-19 restrictions and lockdowns from major import countries that led to congestion in the world's leading ports, the Mombasa port has been experiencing peak moments with recorded full container berth occupancy and minimum vessel.
Now, 52 deposit SACCOs will be in the next week be allowed to form a central liquidity fund that will enable cooperatives to borrow from each other. The Commissioner of Cooperatives, Godfrey Nyangombe, says the policy is to form the fund will also be presented to the Cabinet next week with a view of making SACCOs more competitive.
Cooperative society more competitive in the financial sector. Players in the cooperative movement say there's need to amalgamate resources. Commissioner for Cooperative Geoffrey Nyangombe says already 52 deposit-taking societies have shown interest to form a central liquidity fund to help them access credit.
Just like the banks do, they can lend to other SACCOs which have low liquidity, and that can be done in a cheaper manner because credit is not really affordable in our country. The interest rates are very, very, very high.
These are SACCOs say they'll continue to restructure customer loans in light of the economic meltdown precipitated by COVID-19.
The loans have always been restructured and even top-ups, like when you have difficulties and like you discuss and you are given more money and it's converted to another new loan, that is a kind of restructuring.
Plans are also underway to set up a credit management scheme to relieve pressure of guarantors.
We don't put so much burden on guarantors, but instead we wanted to introduce the scheme, insurance scheme, so that the burden of members who have guaranteed their colleagues is not big. But then if they die or they have moved out of institutions, we can be able to go back to the insurance for rebate.
Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
It shall be illegal for potato traders to package potatoes in bags of over 50 kilograms from 1st April, once the Section 42 of the Agriculture, Fisheries and Food Authority Act of 2013 comes into force. The Agriculture and Food Authority says the measures seek to weed out middlemen who have used extended bags of up to 130 to 260 kilograms, leading to price difference of up to 1,000%.
In 2019, the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture gazetted the Crops Irish Potato Regulations, which provide for the regulation of production, grading, storage, collection, transportation, warehousing, marketing and processing of Irish potatoes. To this end, surveillance teams from AFA Food Directorate reported a high level of non-compliance with the regulations. It is for this reason that AFA is now moving in to enforce strict guidelines.
Somebody appears from nowhere as a broker, as a conman, and tells the farmer he must double the size of the bag, extend the bag by 40 kgs, by 50 kgs. So this is killing the spirit of farmers.
As a start, AFA says it has now engaged an enforcement multi-agency team in the county of Nairobi that will also begin sensitization of traders for Nairobi markets and its environs by the end of this month.
Yes, it has taken a time. Normally, regulations may take time to be enforced. For example, we did not have enforcement officers all that time. It is now that we have started recruiting those enforcement officers.
So far, AFA has gazetted a total of 130 inspectors to enforce the regulations in several counties, including Nyandarua, Narok, Nakuru, Meru, Nyeri, Elgeyo Marakwet, Uasin Gishu, Kiambu and Nairobi. Alan Naoko, Channel 1 Business.
Turkana has been synonymous to poverty and hunger owing to erratic rains. But thanks to irrigation projects in the area, residents are changing the narrative of this region, once deemed unproductive. Steve Miner narrates how greener vegetation sprouting in the area, powered by irrigation, is renewing the hope for families that would otherwise be staring at starvation.
The sight of women singing and dancing is not unusual. But when you introduce farming tools into the picture, then that is a story. The story of Turkana has been characterized by cycles of poverty and hunger. The prospects of farming in this region have in the past decades been difficult owing to the harsh weather conditions.
Nilikuwa mfugaji na nikaendelea na wanyama, fuga ng'ombe, mbuzi, na ikafika wakati ikaona ukame inakuwa mingi, ikakuwa inakufa.
The introduction of the madenge tree was initially to help green the region and mitigate the harsh climatical conditions, but instead it brought devastating effects.
Sehemu yetu ilikuwa imechukuliwa na madenge. Hapa ilikuwa imegeuka kwa kichaka ambayo imekuwa msitu.
In a bid to mitigate these challenges, the National Irrigation Authority developed 14 community-operated irrigation schemes in Turkana County through the expanded National Irrigation Program. One such program is the Katilu Irrigation Scheme.
The scheme is divided into blocks of about 25 acres in each block. And some blocks are slightly bigger, some others about 18 acres. But the farmers in each block is allocated half an acre.
Here, the focus was on the rehabilitation of irrigation water control infrastructure to put 10,000 acres of land under irrigation.
We encourage the farmers now to prepare their shambas into check-burn system so that they can have more efficient in water management in the field. And apart from that, when they prepare their ridges, there is minimum wastage of water to the drains.
This resulted into socio-economic transformation.
Mchanga yetu kumbe tulikuwa nafikiri ni mbaya. Kumbe iko na faida. Sasa vile NIB alikuja, tumepanda sasa ndio chakula ndio imetoka. Tunafuna kila siku.
The county government of Turkana has also stepped in to subsidize or offer free farm inputs as well as link farmers to markets.
Tumekuwa na outbreak ya ugonjwa yenye nashika mahindi kila mara. So wamekuwa karibu na wakulima sana. Kuna pia kuwaonyesha ni dawa gani inaweza tumika ili kuua madudu, na at least mpaka mahali tumeweza ngangana na dudu kwa chakula hii.
National government agencies have further introduced crop varieties tailored to this area, informed by research done on such demonstration farms.
We were able to introduce some crops here that were never grown there before, like Nerika 4 rice. We introduced green grams. We have already introduced watermelons and other horticultural crops.
In Lokori Ward, residents have sufficient food supply powered by the Morilem irrigation scheme.
Tunapanda mtama, mahindi na green grams na cowpeas. Na hiyo mazao tunauza. Tunafanya exchange, barter trade. Tunauza, tupate pesa ya kwenda shule, ya kusaidia wale wagonjwa na pia kununua mbuzi.
Here, plans are on to increase the acreage under irrigation.
Hii kazi tunafanya because bila hii kazi hakuna maisha sisi ukulima. Lazima tulime ndio tupate chakula ya kuendelesha maisha ya baadaye.
Rehabilitation works on the intake are underway to boost water supply for the initial 1,500 acres as well as the planned 1,000 acres.
Wale watu wana mashamba na wataka kulima, tunasema sasa kwa nini wewe unaumia njaa na mchanga ndio hii, mvua ndio hii, maji ndio hii.
With a renewed drive towards irrigation, perennial food insecurity in Turkana might soon be a thing of the past as more and more residents switch from subsistence to commercial farming. Reporting for Channel 1 Business, my name is Steve Maina.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Now, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has maintained that the pricing of petrol, diesel and kerosene mirrors prevailing prices in the international market. However, what became of Kenya's oil extraction plans that would see the country cushioned from such price volatility? Today, Alan Awako sought some insight into the complexities that is the state of the Kenyan oil extraction status and challenges dogging the industry.
Welcome, my name is Alan Awoko. Today we are discussing oil and especially oil exploration. In June 2018, we saw the first barrels of oil being trucked from Turkana to the international market just to test the viability of oil in the international market, Kenyan oil to be precise. And to delve much into this and to understand what brings about the intricacies into the fuel pricing into the country, I am joined by Charles Wangoho from the Oil and Gas Platform. Welcome to the program, Charles.
Thank you, Alan.
Straight off the bat, what is the status of oil in this country from where you sit?
From where I sit, Kenya is at an interesting juncture. At the upstream level, so that's in terms of production, the price is going up. The price of crude oil prices in the international market are going up. That is good for the Kenyan project. So the higher the price goes up, the more viable Kenya's oil production becomes. However, and I think this is what a lot is being discussed in the media at the moment, is that when the international price goes up, the price at the pump also goes up. And so that's what Kenyans have largely been complaining about, that the price has become, a huge burden on each household.
And that's a very interesting point, because some of our viewers will also tell you that now that Kenya was trucking a lot of oil out of the country, surely the earnings would cushion us from this price volatility, especially when you talk about perhaps stocking some oil that we have just to, to buffer the volatility. Why isn't it this way?
The good comparison I'd make is you compare it with Kenyan coffee, right? So a lot of Kenyan coffee is exported, and then at some point is imported back in different forms. So whether it's in your Nescafe that you buy in the local supermarket, so that's similar to oil. So we export the crude oil and then we import the processed product, right? If you remember, I think it's been over 2 to 3 years now that the refinery has closed in Mombasa. So at the moment we have no refinery capacity. So we're actually not able to use our crude. Once the crude comes from the ground, it's not usable. You can't remove it from the ground and immediately pump it into a vehicle. You have to refine it. And so you refine it into very many different products. So, and that's why you see, there's kerosene, there's super, there's diesel, there's jet fuel, for example. So all these derivatives are actually derived from the crude oil, as well as other things like plastics, for example. That's also come from as a byproduct of the refining of crude oil. So at the moment, that's a challenge. So there's no link at the moment between our oil production and our oil consumption. So there's absolutely no link there. And I think that's what a lot of people are struggling to understand, that even though we have oil, we cannot use our own oil nationally. So we have to export it. And then you have to remember that in 2018, that was actually a pilot scheme, right? So the country didn't actually make revenue. We've been asking consistently to get the numbers of how much did it actually cost us, because it's very expensive to transport oil by road. The best way to transport that oil in Turkana is by building a pipeline from Turkana to Lamu and then exporting it, and that's the way we'll be able to make back our money. But by tracking oil, and I think it's the Canadians or the Americans who have a very good phrase. They say you don't. The term is that you don't track if you can train, and then you don't train if you can pipeline, right? So pipeline is the cheapest way of transporting crude.
The implementation of different stages of trying to extract this oil, we have seen that the government saying that the pipeline to Turkana from the coast will take a bit of time, and especially now that we always have issues of land and what have you. In the pilot scheme, the earnings were about 1.48 billion shillings, with about, if I'm not wrong, 200 million, of course, going to the logistics of it all. But the Ministry of Energy also said that that was just to test the viability of Kenya's oil abroad. Do you agree with the assessment that now that we've seen how viable our oil is, that is the right way to go now? Look at piping solutions, as you've said. But what's next? Are we on the right track?
We are a bit delayed. I think the tracking option, because it took a lot of time to actually plan, so we imported what they call a central processing facility to actually process that crude so that it could be put onto the trucks. Remember, our crude is very waxy. So as soon as you get it out, it actually becomes solid. So you have to heat it. And so that logistics to get it to Mombasa, which is not the end, the plan is to take it out of Lamu, not Mombasa. So that it wasn't the best test, if you ask me, because the best test would actually to have tried to get it to Lamu and see how from Lamu it goes to market. So we've tried Mombasa now, and we're still not clear on the numbers. We still need to get more numbers on how much it actually costs. The tracking is one component of it. Like I said, the importation of the central processing facilities is another aspect of it. And also when you're doing very small numbers, we're doing 2,000 barrels of oil. That's very little, because you need to do bigger numbers so that those bigger numbers take care of most of the costs. Yeah. When you do very small volumes, then it costs way more to actually get that oil out. So if you compare, we were saying 2,000 barrels of oil per day, but in the bigger plan, we're planning between 60,000 to 80,000 barrels of oil per day when we start full production. So it was a very sort of small scale test of it.
Mm-hmm. Given the logistics and the complexities in this operation, what about the investor sentiment? From where you sit, are you seeing a clamor of investors coming to look at this region and this country as a place where they can actually make something when trying to derive this oil out of this country?
So in 2014, we had a conference. It was called the Africa Oil Boom Conference. And back then, the price of oil was in the high 80s, 70s to 80s. So it was a very attractive time. So we were being considered the frontier countries, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, frontier oil and gas countries. And we were following in the footsteps of our brothers in the West. So Ghana, which had just discovered oil and had started producing in, I think, around 2012. Those are the countries we were looking at. But then what you remember is shortly after that, the price actually collapsed. So the international oil price collapsed. And so these investments started looking not as viable as they were before. And Tullow, for example, who was doing very well back then, is now, is struggling in the sector. And Tullow is our biggest oil operator at the moment. And so our fortunes are tied with the international oil price. And so what I can say now is that the oil price is going up. So now that the oil price is going up, there will be increased interest in investing here. But I have to say also there's a bigger challenge around climate change and fossil fuel. People are trying to move away from fossil fuels. So that remains a huge challenge in terms of how the country will go forward in its oil production.
Mm-hmm. And that's a very interesting aspect to bring about climate change. And of course, for example, in the UK, they declared that they'll stop using combustion engines by 2030. That's a huge market for oil and gas. What is the future then for Kenya, even if we get our house in order and we don't have anywhere to take our oil? What will happen?
I think we have to look internally, and I think this is something that analysts in Kenya are looking at. At the moment, in the UK and in the Western world, a lot of people are moving to electric vehicles. I think in Kenya, I don't think we even have 2,000 registered electric vehicles yet. I think we're still building that number. So we're still far away from moving away from, combustible engines within the country. And so at some point, we will export most of our oil, and then at some point, it's going to have to be domestically absorbed. And when that happens, then we can start this discussion that we're currently having. Why is the pump price so high and yet we produce oil?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were getting to that, but now that you brought it up, it's only good that we also talk about it, because a lot of Kenyans have been, very worried at the trends that we've been having consistently. The prices have been going up for kerosene, for petrol, for diesel. I mean, what seems to be the most challenging issue in this? Why is it consistently going up, and what is the remedy going forward?
The remedy has to be a tax. The challenge has been a tax problem. So in 2018, 2019, I think KRA announced, there was a 16% increase in revenue from oil collection. And that is because the international price had collapsed, but instead of giving that benefit to the citizen, what happened is government increased the taxes. So we didn't really notice, because we went to the pump, the price was still the same. But because the international price had collapsed, so there was a bigger take of government. And so that was 2018, 2019. So there's a bit of a slowdown in 2020 because of Corona. So the taxes fell down. What did government do then? Then it increased VAT and then increased petroleum development levy by 5 shillings. So that's the impact that we are seeing now. And that's when the price was low last year, when the prices had collapsed. So now between January and April this year, the price has risen from around $41 to almost 69, almost reaching 70. So now that's when we are seeing. So it's a delayed effect that we are seeing at the pump, although these changes were actually done last year. So that's what's happening now, and we are seeing the impact of the international price going up. That's what we are feeling at the pump. So in terms of taxes, and I think the proposal here is that the petroleum development levy, which was increased from 40 cents to 5 shillings and 40 cents last year, we see that we need a mechanism where once the price of oil internationally goes above $50, we should scrape that development levy. And then we should again cushion the members of the public from it. Because, fuel is an essential good and it impacts everything. So if you look at the transport sector, for example, the prices of transport have gone up, by 16%, factoring also the Corona implications of, reduced, cars being forced to carry fewer passengers. So you're seeing a significant increase on the prices. And so that's something that government needs to look at. And it's a tax issue, to be honest, because at the moment, tax is 50% of the price. Before, as recent as 2020, the price was only 40% was taxes, then 60% is landed plus all other costs.
Would you agree also with the thought of, from some quarters of the industry, that perhaps a consolidated fund will be also something that will cushion Kenyans, a fund that is funded by the government, by stakeholders, that also comes from fines in the industry or proceeds of crime in the industry, where now all these come into one basket, and then when there are fluctuations, we don't feel it because it's been tapped from the fund. Would that also be tenable?
You see, the petroleum development levy, that's the idea behind the petroleum development levy. But we don't have regulations. So they started collecting the 5 shilling before the regulations were passed. So we don't have a mechanism for how to implement that. So I think, the easiest thing is to lower the taxes on fuel. That is sort of the easiest, straightforward thing. Our consolidated fund will add another complexity. If you look at the pricing mechanism already, there's a lot of complexity now between the wholesale price and the retail price, and then you're trying to factor in how much the oil companies can take, what is a fair price for them to take as profit, for example. These are things that government wasn't involved in before. So if a smaller player wanted to charge, 40 shillings, there was no one stopping them from charging 40 shillings. But now there's a standard price. So everyone tends to reach the maximum, as opposed to someone saying, actually, for me, these are my costs, and so I'll still make a profit at 45 shillings instead of now the prescribed 55 shillings.
How will you tie that levy to landing costs? Are they correlated in any way?
The landing cost doesn't impact the petroleum development levy, at least from my understanding of it. The petroleum development levy is a standard 5 shillings and 40 cents. So that is just automatically plugged in. So even if the price lands, so at the moment, the landed costs of fuel is around 49 shillings, right? Then you just add a 5 shilling 40 cents on top of that for petroleum development levy, another 12 shillings for the oil company. So the oil companies take another 12 shillings. And then our government adds the 59, right? So that's, then it gets to the price of about 122 shillings.
Mm-hmm. So I asked because IPRA had maintained that it's just because of the landing costs that our prices are just that high. But it seems that if there's no correlation, then there's another complexity altogether in there.
The other complexity is VAT, because VAT is based on that price, right? So the higher the price, then the VAT also increases the take. So that's the other complexity there that you can say, because then the VAT is directly linked to the price, so that it factors all the costs, and then now the VAT is added on top.
Mm-hmm. Well, recently the Parliamentary Committee on Energy met with the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum just to understand exactly where the country is in terms of oil exploration, which we talked about earlier, and why the prices of fuel keep going up and up and up. And what came out of that committee, at least at that moment, was that from the government side, the fuel costs that usually go up is something volatile, and that even though in Kenya it is high, from the Tanzanian side and from the Ugandan side it's still cheap. And the members of parliament wanted to know, why is it like that? Why is it in Kenya we have so much high costs, and in Uganda and Tanzania they're very low? How is that possible?
So it goes back to 2010. So 2010, we put in a price control mechanism. It was actually to prevent anti-competitive behavior by the private sector, right? Because what we were seeing is that the international price was going down. The oil companies were not transferring that price. So there would be this cat and mouse game between saying, oh, we still have stocks that we bought at a higher price, so we can't lower the price now. So to prevent that cartel-like behavior, you put in this price control mechanism that sort of ensured that once the price goes up, then that's supposed to translate. So at the moment, that's not happening. So that's the challenge, that we have the law that was put in to protect public interest is actually not protecting public interest at the moment, that it's just become a smoothing mechanism. Yeah. So one thing I also have to be clear is that I am not proposing that we remove the price control mechanism, because again, we will get back to that challenge where now private sector are the ones who are in charge. Exactly. So they'd hoard the fuel, again, never pass down the costs, and so they make sort of this sort of almost ridiculous profits. So it controls the level of profits that they earn. But at the moment, those players are not complaining. So the wholesale buyers of oil, the retail sellers of oil, they're not complaining about the price. They are guaranteed a price. They're guaranteed their 12 shillings for each litre that they sell. So they're fine. So the person who's suffering is actually the consumer, because the consumer is the one who has to keep going back to his pocket to add more. So you've come from 100 shillings fuel to now 122, for example, for super. So you're the one who has to go back for that 22 shillings back into your pocket to again remove. And what people don't see is that it has an impact, for example, on the transportation of goods. So everything that's transported within, the price goes up. So all basic commodities. So everyone's paying for it. There's a lot of talk around the people, or we need to expand the tax net. But if you think about, like if you look at the fuel alone, everyone is paying for that. Everyone is paying for that each day. And so that's something that's just not seen in terms of policy. And it's sort of the inequality of tax policy.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's something interesting you've mentioned there about the taxation of the fuel. And perhaps maybe it's not really your avenue, but maybe you have an opinion on it. Many people are talking about for example, the fuel levy and the emerging PPP direction that the government is taking, where you have a private public partnership with private sector to build certain infrastructure that vehicles use. For example, the current Nairobi Expressway. So some consumers argue that why should I even pay this fuel levy if, it was meant to build roads, but now this other one will be charged at all. Can you demystify for our viewers what the difference is over here?
You have to go again into a bit of history into that. So before, I think for some of your older viewers, they'll remember the days that we had toll stations. So we had a toll station in Gilgil, the toll station, I think, just before Timboroa or Burnt Forest. So for people like us who are from that side, so that was the collection system then, so that the road users would use it, right? So now you switch from that to a fuel levy, which is more efficient to collect, for example. But also now it's also to maintain the roads as well. So that's been the history of the switch. And then in terms of the public-private partnerships, these work when these are viable projects, so that the private sector, government doesn't have to look into funding a lot of these huge infrastructure projects by itself, that it partners with private sector. But globally, these are coming into challenges, especially where they are not commercially viable, because they're guaranteed by government. So when they don't fail, then government is left holding the baby, so to speak, in these partnerships.
So as an industry player, would you advise, paying the fuel levy and still also as well parting with a few shillings to use a particular road, just for the benefit of also your own convenience?
I think that's challenging. I mean, the only people who would be able to do that would have to be commercial vehicles. I think private people like myself would not pay, a premium for that. But a commercial person who's saying, for example, that it'll cost him less to pay that extra fee and get to his destination within a shorter period of time, if he was to use less fuel in that. So, I mean, these are calculations that have to be made. And that's the calculations that should have been made before the project was proposed. That to say how many people could actually afford, for example, to pay, 200 shillings extra on a toll or 300 shillings extra on a toll.
Interesting. Bringing you back to the regulator side and regulation surrounding fuel and oil. In our region, our peers don't seem to have a regulator. And would you agree with the assessment that bringing regulation has also assisted us in removing a lot of the ills that used to plague us in the past, especially when you look at adulteration of fuel? You'd find that in some of our neighbors, our partners, you find there's a high level of fuel adulteration. Would you attribute the low levels here in Kenya to the regulation as well?
I'm a fan of smart regulators, and so I believe that regulators should be empowered, should be given the resources. So they need more adequate resources to actually ensure that they actually undertake their mandate. So given the strong mandate, for example, that EPRA has, to prevent such things as adulteration, to prevent, sort of mushrooming of illegal sort of gas refilling stations, they need a lot more support to enable them actually undertake those roles. Because, I mean, supervision is one of the bigger challenges. And if you don't have budget to do that, you won't be able to do it.
And so then, going forward in the whole scheme of things, our status as a country in oil exploration, our status in the country in fuel consumption, what is the way forward? How are you seeing Kenya in the next 10 years, 20 years in this sector?
I think Kenya has an opportunity to leapfrog even our neighbors, because if you look, for example, around electricity generation, we're already way ahead in use of renewable energy, for example. And so Kenya has always sort of been at the forefront in this sector. And so I think as Kenya repositions itself, whether as an oil producer or a gas producer, it has a bright future.
Thank you very much for enlightening us on the sector. And thank you very much, the viewer, for looking at this with us, where we have been talking about the oil and fuel situation in the country. We have been speaking with Charles Wahungu, who is a coordinator from the oil and gas platform. My name is Alan Aoko. Until next time, do stay tuned.
Now, on to a lighter note. Ingoho, when you say Mluya ni kuku na kuku ni Mluya. On a lighter note, no offense to my Luya brothers and sisters, but now the cultural importance of chicken as a delicacy among the Luya community cannot be underestimated. Now, in Maskan village, Webuye, they just don't serve chicken. Now, the serene environment offers a wide range of poultry to choose from. Tonight on Magical Scenes, we focus on attractions in Bungoma County.
Located on a quiet, accessible destination in Webuye West, Maskan village is the home, just like home. Webuye in Bungoma County is believed to be ancestral land for the Bukusu among the Luo community. The homesteads here are known for chicken delicacies, ugali, and traditional vegetables such as murenda, mchicha, as referred to in a local dialect. At the Maskan village, it is not just about chicken, but several birds too. You would identify your favorite bird, have it prepared and served at the comfort of your choice and style. The cultural importance of chicken among the Luo community will hardly be understated. The delicacy would hardly miss in special events and gatherings. The destination also prides itself in scenic hilly backgrounds, lush green gardens, artificial waterfalls, man-made fish ponds, and luxurious accommodation facilities.
Anybody who comes to Maskan, automatically comes back. I even have some people from America who annually now have formed made a date with the Maskan. So every year when they are in Kenya, they don't go anywhere else. They just come down Western and they come to the Maskan, stay here for as long as a week, then they go away. It's a hobby. I just try to put them now together. And they occupy me. During the period of the corona, I did a lot of work here, just making sure that I make it unique. And I believe it is unique.
Maskan village is a sightseeing highlight in an area with a natural green, healthy environment. And in the months after the rainy season, it is definitely worth to go a place. Irene Mchuma Udim, Magical Sense in the county of Bungoma.
Yeah, Ingoho there, a delicacy of the Luo community there. We have a couple of them on studio this tonight, and they were very happy about that particular piece. Remember, feedback is always welcome, and our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Now, hotels have begun registering an increase in bookings and inquiries ahead of the Easter holiday peak next week. Now, Kenya Safari Lodges and Hotels Administration says it has recorded close to 80% of inquiries on bed capacities, especially on beach properties, from Kenyans planning to take advantage of the current low prices.
The tourism industry is springing back to life amid the COVID-19 pandemic, with domestic tourism reportedly giving the local market a boost now that lockdowns have been imposed on international travelers. Investors in the hotel industry say this Easter, Kenyans have filled up to 80% on bed occupancies, especially on beach properties.
Local business has really supported us in terms of conferencing. And that is what has managed to see KSLH through, because even right now as we are talking, we have quite a number of groups which have come for conferencing. One of the things also we did is that we gave subsidized prices, which we are still giving until when the business peaks completely.
The Kenya Safari Lodges and Hotels general managers say most Kenyans prefer a tropical holiday owing to favorable weather patterns and reduced holiday fee.
From that, the business which we have been getting has helped us a lot, because it has managed it has enabled us to keep all the staff who are employed by KSLH.
During Easter, Christian faithful commemorate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Irene Mchuma Odim, Channel 1.
On to matters sports, where the Kenya Prisons Sports Commission has unveiled a new sporting equipment for the reigning East African champions Prisons darts team. Now, the event was graced by four-time Boston Marathon champion Catherine Dereba as they played with Egypt today. And the scores will... Now, those are just a recap of the match that KBC Channel 1 televised for you at 7 p.m. Kenya versus Egypt there, a game that ended on a draw 1-1. Remember, you can get further details on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. What next for Kenya there? Will we be playing Togo for pride or for nothing at all? Our communications line remains open at KBC Channel 1 News. That's our Twitter handle. So earlier on, we had highlighted what is happening as far as the dart sport is concerned. Here's a detailed report.
The Kenya Prisons darts team, who are currently the Magereza Cup champions, received sporting equipment which were donated by the Kenya Prison Service Sports Commission ahead of upcoming darts competitions. Four-time Boston Marathon champion and Kenya Prison Service Sports Coordinator Catherine Dereba revealed that the sports department will support the sport fully.
They have a lot of skills, and this has been possible just because of the leadership of the same discipline through their chairman and their TM, and also the discipline of the players. And I really thank you all very, very much.
You have made us proud because of the performance, the way you have been performing in the past. He is very much aware that you are currently number one in East and Central Africa. And it's his wish that you'll continue holding that position, that you are not going to relax. You know, sometimes when somebody is at the top, you tend to relax.
Dereba also urged the darts team to step up training so as to post good results this year.
Naona wachezaji yangu wote wameng'ara, kuanzia the captain, kuanzia my BRO na wale wengine wote. Na ningependa kushukuru pia the Sports Council through the office of the Sports Coordinator Madam Catherine Dereba, ambaye yeye pia ni mchezaji katika athletics, lakini kwa sasa yeye amehusika na mambo ya darts na yeye pia ni spectator sana.
Some of the equipment donated include uniforms, dartboards and darts missiles.
Harambee Stars there tried to do their best and brings us to a close of Business Insight tonight. But we leave you with a weather forecast for tomorrow so that you can know what activities you're likely to engage in, and better yet, how to dress. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a great viewing ahead.
Narok residents, prepare yourself for the coldest night in the country tonight, with temperatures dropping to 8 degrees Celsius over there. Good evening. My name is Yusuf Farah. Time now for your Channel 1 weather updates. And tonight, rainfall is expected in a few places of the east and west of the Rift Valley region, with dry weather conditions dominating most parts of the country. Strong southeasterly winds are expected to blow over the counties of Marsabit and Turkana. Tomorrow morning, we'll be waking up to sunny intervals in most parts of the country, from the capital city, Nairobi, and its environs. The coastal region will also have sunny intervals in the morning. The northeastern region, sunny intervals in the morning as well. In the afternoon, with the exception of Kisii and Narok, where there will be showers accompanied by thunderstorms. Sunny intervals dominate the coastal region, Mombasa, Malindi, Kilifi and Kwale, the northeastern region, Garissa, Mandera, Isiolo and Wajir, all the way to Lodwar and the Lake Turkana Basin, and areas bordering Kenya and South Sudan will have sunny intervals in the afternoon. I take a look at the temperatures now. Tomorrow, highs of 39, lows of 23 in Mandera, Garissa highs of 38, lows of 24 in the capital city, Nairobi highs of 28 and lows of 14. On that note, I complete the local weather forecast. I'll join you tomorrow same time, same place on Channel 1. Until then, do have yourselves a lovely night.
Vera Beauty College. Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret, Thika and Meru. Did you know that we are a TVET approved institution? We offer courses in fashion design, interior design in soft furnishing, event decoration, flower arrangement, event planning, hairdressing, barbering and dreadlocks, beauty therapy, makeup, nail technology, spa massages, teaching skills, TOT, solo business management, and many more. Register now and visit our website on www.verabeautycollege.com. You can also call on 0725 923 550 Nairobi branch, 0728 087 689 Eldoret branch, 0722 22 7428 Thika branch, 0725 000 706 Meru branch. Vera Beauty and Fashion College, a TVET approved institution.
Haya! Mtumishi! Ni wewe?
Ni mimi.
Ulitoa pikipiki?
Mlitani sitaomoka.
Ni yako?
Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit.
Quickbit?
Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder.
399 shillings?
Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari.
So tupeleke huko hata
mtu aendi huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
I was not content. I thought I was, but I wasn't. Even admitting that is risky. But I wanted more. And the more I got, the more I started to decay.
12-year-old Tamir Rice was shot and killed by police in Ohio in 2014.
I am giving my grandson, who is now of driving age, the talk of how to properly behave if pulled over by police.
I lost a lot of tears, went through depression, anxiety, struggled in my marriage, substance abuse. So many different things happened during that time period that just brought me to a low place.
The memo, read the message, found my purpose, found my method. Only L I took was lessons. Tell them.
Well, about 11% of global electricity demand is generated by about 500 nuclear reactors. Kenya plans to become a member of this exclusive club of 31 countries. Where are we? And what are the timelines? Joining us tonight to discuss matters nuclear energy is Engineer Collins Juma. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Nuclear Power and Energy Agency. Thank you so very much indeed, sir, for joining us. I mean, for more than a decade, Kenya has been talking about, becoming a member of nuclear generating countries in the world. What steps have we made so far?
Thank you. Thank you, Kimani. Allow me to start by saying that nuclear power plant is not just like any other power plant. It's totally different from the traditional generations sources that we have, like hydro, geothermal, wind, solar, and all that. So what happens in the nuclear world is that once you make a decision as a country, then you approach the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is the UN agency, which is mandated by the UN to give guidelines and guide countries who wants to pursue what we call the peaceful uses of nuclear application. Okay, you asked about the preparation that we've made. So somewhere in 2011, we approached the IEA, and we were grouping in the dark that time, so we really didn't know what to expect from the agency, and the agency gave us what they call the milestone approach. And this milestone approach entails a lot of issues, or they call them the infrastructure issues. So I hope we don't confuse with the infrastructure here, or roads and all that.
Yeah.
So what are these infrastructure issues? They talk about environmental issues, they talk about siting issues, they talk about grid. They're all 19 of them.
19 of them.
19 of them. And then they are divided. They lead you now into a phasing program, which is called the phase approach. Phase 1, milestone 1, phase 2, milestone 2, and phase 3, milestone 3, which is now commissioning. So what we've done is that we looked at those issues and did a pre-feasibility study on where we needed to concentrate our efforts depending on the stage we were. And we did that for 3 years, the pre-feasibility study, after which we told them that, okay, this is what we've done as a country, then can we have a peer review? So in 2015, they sent the agency here to come and check what we've done, what they call the INIR mission, Integrated Nuclear Infrastructure Review Mission, which they do to any member state, because a nuclear accident here is a nuclear accident anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And it affects business, big businesses. So they came and did a review with us and told us, okay, here is where you've excelled, and here is where we give you recommendations, and here is where we give suggestions on what to, because they tell you that we can't force you, it's a decision of the country, but we can give you guidelines. So the quick wins that we've done is that, first of all, we had to set an organization from the beginning, and that has been done. Organization is running. We had the quick wins like start the training of the personnel that you want to work in the nuclear power plant in the future, because the preparatory work that we are doing can take 15 to 20 years. We've done that, and we are moving very well with that training. Then we had to start a buy-in on tell people about nuclear, because if you talk about nuclear, people think of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then the bombs and all that.
And the Chernobyl.
And the Chernobyl, and the other one, 3 Mile Island. So we also started in a small way, depending on our capacity and resources we have, to try and educate people about the nuclear power plant that we like. We say, look, it's worked in 500 reactors around the world. It wouldn't be too much to have 1 or 2 here. So we've done that, and we are that one will continue until we commission the plant, and even when we are running the plant. The other issues that needed quick attention was legislation and regulatory issues, because we didn't have a nuclear law in this country and we didn't have a regulator. What we had was a Radiation Protection Board, which actually was dealing with ionizing radiation like the ones you have in hospitals and the one used in agriculture, in water and the industry, like the University of Nairobi and KEBS. So we've set up a regulator now. The Radiation Protection Act of 1982 has been repealed, and then now we have Nuclear Regulatory Act 2019, which has created the regulator.
The commission.
Yeah. In terms of siting, we did the preliminary studies during the pre-feasibility study and got so many sites, around 30, using what they call that time the exclusion criteria. But now we are trying to zero in on what we think could be the probable sites, and do, once you get the probable site, then you do detailed analysis of the sites, and then you can pinpoint that I have these 2-3 sites the way I can do the nuclear power plant.
When you look at you know, the 3 phases, you know, as outlined by the IEA.
Yes.
Where would you say we are? Are we at phase 1? Are we at phase 2 or phase 3?
Well, sometimes it's not even clear which phase you are in, because you find some of the activities you've done are in phase 2. Some of the activities that you are lacking behind or slightly behind are in phase 1. Phase 3 is a different thing. So you dance between phase 1 and phase 2. But I can say that we were supposed to have the follow-up review in March. Then COVID
the second review.
Yeah, the second one. Then COVID kicked in. And we planned it for November. And I can say that when they come here, they'll clearly tell us that we are in phase 2. Yeah.
We are in phase 2.
Yeah.
Tell me this. I mean, the news about Kenya venturing into the nuclear, or what you call civil nuclear space, you know, has been met with a lot of consternation. And a lot of people argue that, I mean, as a country, do we even have the capacity, you know, number 1, to manage nuclear waste, number 2, to manage a nuclear reactor in this country?
And a very genuine concern. And if you ask me whether we have the capacity now and the capability, I would clearly tell you no.
We do not have.
And that's why we talk of preparatory that takes 10, 15 to 20 years. And that's what started in 2011. We don't have the people that can operate the plant at the moment. And that's why we are training. We don't even have the money that can, as a government, or we don't have maybe that kind of money that we can put in that project. We have to look at other ways, other models around the world, how they've done it. You talked about the waste management. Waste management is one of the infrastructure issues, and you have to have a policy on how you want to deal with the waste management. But I would say that as plants evolve, like what we had in Chernobyl is not what we have in Baraka site in Saudi Arabia, in the Emirates. So waste management evolves as the technology evolves. So it's not it's not much of a worry, because depending on who the vendor is, you have to define your waste management policy on the way you want to, how you want to do it. So I would say that what would hold us is the trained personnel, public acceptance, and financing. Yeah,
those 3.
Yeah, waste management is technological. Yeah,
and from where you see it, or from where you stand, when can we say that now it's a proper time for us to have a nuclear reactor in this country?
When you've evaluated all the 19 infrastructure issues and you've gotten the confidence of the vendors, who are very few, that you are ready to do that, and you have to put yourself a target. You say 10, 15 years, we should be able to do this. But you know the way projects are run, project can shift depending on the kind of resources that you've put in place.
But the country was looking at you know, when you look at Vision 2030, to talk about, you know, having electricity generated from nuclear reactors by the year 2030. We are 10 years to 2030.
Yeah.
Would that time frame be enough from where you start and from how you see things?
By the way, let me correct. The initial plan was that by the year 2020.
2020.
Yes, and we were talking about that in 2008. And that's why I tell you, when we went to the Atomic Energy Agency, they told us, oh, you guys, this is not possible unless you spend billions and billions trying to buy experts around the world. Then we change now to the tact of the milestone approach. But if you ask me, 2030, what our least cost power development says is 2036. Very feasible. 2030 is also feasible, but you'll have to do a lot of work. You burn your midnight oil.
Especially on training.
Yeah, on training and then on the studies that you want to do, because doing a detailed site characterization can take between 2 to 3 years. And then you say, this is what I have as the site. Construction, well, I know there are vendors who say, assuming we run very fast from now, 3 years.
And running very fast for you means what?
Running very fast for me means that you have the resources to train people, you have the money to do the studies, and you have the money to conduct the stakeholder engagement and have people buy in. Yeah.
And all those are missing as we speak.
No, I'm not saying they're missing. They're being done, but in a smaller scale, depending on the resources.
In a smaller scale.
Yeah.
And the smaller the scale, the
longer the period
it will take.
Yeah.
So from where you sit, 2036, what would we need to do to ensure that we join this league? And what financial resources are we looking at?
I think 2030, 2036, as I've said, is achievable. But the kind of financial resources that we are looking for, like if you want to do a site study, the last time we did a benchmarking with Saudi Arabia and Nigeria, it was 1.5 billion. But
USD? Oh.
No, Kenya shillings. Maybe it has scaled up, and depending on the site, because the site characteristic in Saudi Arabia could be different from here. Temperatures are different. So if you talk of 2 billion, you need 2 billion to do that.
You need to be.
Yeah, to do that study. Then if you want to do maybe technology assessment, might not be much. You might need some. If you gave a budget of maybe 10 billion for that, then you would be ready now to invite the bids.
To invite the bids.
Yeah.
We are looking at constructing a 1,000 megawatts reactor. How much will that cost in today's market price?
Another difficult question to answer, because if I am talking of the Korean technology and I'm building in Korea, then it would be much cheaper in Korea than when I'm building in here. Or if
but now you're building here in Kenya.
Yes, yeah. So I would give you the price of what it would cost, like in the United Arab Emirates, 1,000 would cost between 5 to 6-7 billion USD.
USD?
Yeah.
That's 700?
Yeah, that's 700. Yeah.
Billion Kenya shillings?
Yeah.
And that is in UAE?
In UAE.
Where the infrastructure development of roads, power, and sewer lines is a bit developed than here than where
what
we are.
What they've just completed at that time was 4.8, and they started this thing 9 years ago. So if you talk of the price now, you have to scale it up. So I talk even of 500 billion USD, but don't look at it that much, because you are talking about 1,000 megawatt plant, which will run for 80 years and has almost 98% availability. So crack those numbers and you see whether you are getting value for your 500 billion or not. If you exploit 100% of your geothermal, extend your...
The 18,000 megawatts?
Yes. Extend your hydros, few hundreds.
Solar is infinite.
No. Solar and wind are not in this discussion. Why? Because if you are talking of a coal smelting plant in Meru or steel, then you are talking of baseload generation. So you push coal and wind and solar out of this discussion. So you say, what can I get from baseload generation? Then you say, maybe it's only gas or nuclear or geothermal. Okay, you've exhausted your geothermal. Where do you go to? And I think that time there was an old man from Korea and Malaysia, and they said, for Korea, nuclear has worked for us very well, but it takes time to develop and takes money. Why don't we start thinking about nuclear now so that we can use it in the year 2030? And that's how the discussion came on the table.
Do you think the thoughts then are valid today?
If we are still pursuing Vision 2030, they're valid.
And do you think
if we are not, then we have to rethink.
Look, the total generated power in this country, we are talking about 2,700 megawatts.
Yes.
You're talking about geothermal having a potential of about 18,000 megawatts.
Yes.
So, plus what we have, we'll talk about 20,000 megawatts.
Yes.
We haven't talked about hydro. We haven't talked about what we are
hydro,
generating.
we can't get much, We can't get much. But what I've said, I don't want to say beyond Vision 20. If we are still having the vision for 2030, the dream is valid.
The dream is valid.
But if and only if we've changed because of our GDP, then we can rethink. If we want to get industrialized and we need stable energy, you have to think of nuclear.
You must think about it.
You must think about it. And we are not the only country.
Actually, in Africa, there are about 10 countries that are pursuing nuclear energy.
Yes.
And on
seriously, almost all of them, but seriously, it's around 10.
Is around 10.
Yeah.
And the only country that has some level of expertise in nuclear energy management is South Africa.
Precisely.
What do we have to learn from them?
Yeah, what they've gone through, we really have to learn from them because they didn't expand their nuclear and they concentrated on coal. Now with coal having a capping and also delayed projects in coal, they're having the same problems that we had in 1998, 1996, 1998. But you know, they've woken up, they want to do additional 9 reactors. Why? Because now they want to mitigate the climate change and they want to stabilize their generation now that they're reducing on coal.
And they're having funding challenges.
And they're having funding challenges, but those ones they can sort out.
And they are working with the Russians.
Well, I won't say they are working with the Russians. I think Russia was one of the bidders. No. Russia was one of the bidders for the 9,000 megawatts.
And it was given the tender?
No, it wasn't.
What happened?
Well, they had their own politics also on the tenders, so it was shelved.
Have we settled on working with China to help us develop nuclear energy, or who are we working with in this?
We've not settled on anyone.
Are we targeting anyone?
We are targeting all of them, but depending on which technology the study will come out that this is what is suitable for us and this is the cost.
So far from where you sit?
Yep.
Have you analyzed that information?
We are doing that now. We are doing what we call technology assessment. Yeah.
It is leaning towards where? East or west?
No, it has not started leaning yet. It has not started leaning. It has not started leaning yet.
Look here. Yeah. We are discussing nuclear energy in the studio with Engineer Collins.
Yes.
Juma.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
You've asked me whether we've leaned to any of the vendors.
East or west?
No, we've not. But what we've done, we've signed what we call capacity building issues, MOU on capacity building, cross-cutting issues. Safety is safety, whether you're using the Russian technology, the Chinese, the EDF of France, or you're using Korea or
the American
America.
Technology.
Safety is safety. Security and safeguard is the same. No one wants to the material to land on the wrong hands. So that one, the training you get will be the same. But when it comes to the technology, and you pick this, I want AP 1400, then you have to bring in a simulator towards that. It would be so expensive to train people on a Chinese technology, then you go and buy Russian. That's why we are being very careful on that.
You have hired the Chinese to do the site characterization?
We have not. They did the terms of reference for the study.
For the study?
Yeah.
Have you picked a company for the site characterization?
No, we've not even advertised.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
When do you plan to do this?
When we get the money.
Because we
don't get in the budget yet. When we get the money.
Everything boils down to money here.
Of course, yeah. When we get the budget allocation for that, and we almost got it.
Almost?
Yeah, we almost got it because we had put a case to Treasury. Well, some few things, we didn't get the money, but we are hoping in the next financial year, we should be able to get the money that we can start with. Because, it's against the procurement rule that you can't advertise for a tender that you don't have the money to execute.
I read somewhere in the media that this could be true or wrong.
Yeah.
That you guide us. That you're either targeting Tana River County, Turkana County, or some counties around the western part of this country. How farther from the truth is this?
Nothing can be further from the truth, but the truth is that there were some of the candidate sites. I told you we had 29 sites. Western, around Tana River, and Coast. We are yet to do a study and say that this is the site and this is the alternate site.
That is yet to happen.
It has not happened.
But there are some of the candidates on the table.
Well, in terms of areas, we have Coast, we have Tana River, we have Lake Victoria. Yeah. Now we have to start evaluating so many things. If you want a 1,000 megawatt plant, transporting the reactor core alone from Mombasa to Lake Victoria, you'll have to reinforce all these bridges, otherwise they break. You can't fly it. So those are some of the things that you really
have to be readjusted.
Yeah. You have to think of, okay, unless I'm going for a small reactor, I can maybe transport by hauler and all that, then I can now increase my frequency in doing the study in that area. But if I want this, so you have to also do this technology assessment, say, which one do I want? Then if you say 1,000 big ones, I don't know whether you've seen one, then maybe the hinterland is out.
Is out.
Transport. So you want now to start thinking that, let me consider around the lake where they can bring it. And most of them are actually along the big oceans. Yeah.
There were discussions that after various evaluations, Lamu was becoming the most appealing site to have a nuclear reactor in this country.
Well, I don't know about the study for nuclear for Lamu, but I certainly know them about for coal plant.
Well, forget about the Lamu power plant.
Yeah.
Lamu, because of its nearness to the ocean, it was being touted as one of the contenders for the site of Kenya's first nuclear reactor. Is this thought still entertained?
That one I may not affirm, because I said coastal region. There's an area. Yeah. Whether Lamu is part of it, I cannot say yes or no. But I know we have the sites along the coast, along Lake Victoria and along Tana River. And I'm telling you that if we were to consider big reactors, then Coast turns out to be one of the possible candidates.
And of course, talking about 1,000 megawatts, that's a big reactor.
It's a big reactor, no. But we've not closed in on that yet, because they are what we call the small modular reactors. That's why I'm telling you that the study will bring out. Do we want to bring, like Koreans are doing the smart reactor of 120 megawatts. Do you want 120 to make you 1,000? Very flexible. You can put one.
So you put multiple reactors.
Yeah, you put multiple reactors. So those ones also can determine the site. Yeah.
And you know, when you're talking about nuclear energy in Kenya, I mean, one might think that you're talking about a different Kenya altogether from the Kenya that we know.
Yeah.
Collins, and there was a time that you appeared before, Parliament.
Yeah.
To shed light about, more light about, nuclear energy and that. And I remember some of your words were things that we must become more astute as a country in our management of things. We must deal with issues of corruption. Because as you put it here, a nuclear accident here
everywhere
is a nuclear accident in the world. What exactly did you mean?
But let me go back to before I answer that, let me go back to the Kenya, which wants the nuclear, and the Kenya we know. Vision 2030 envisaged that by that time, the Republic of Kenya will be like Malaysia, Singapore, and the likes. We talk about that every day. And we were assuming that that time, by the year we reach 2030, and still it's my dream that that's what it will be, things like waste management, because people ask me, if we can't collect garbage, how about nuclear waste? And I tell them, I thought by the time we reach Malaysia or Singapore, waste would not be a problem in these countries. So we should not look at ourselves at that time. We should look at ourselves then. Then in that case, we are able to handle what we think we can't handle now. But if we can't reach that stage that we anticipate in the year 2030, then the scenario is different. Now you ask something about nuclear accident here and nuclear accident anywhere. These people, the vendors, some of them are government owned. They don't want to spoil their own name, because if we have a nuclear accident here, then we check at the reference plants. Where are they in the world? They say one is in South Africa, one is in Belarus, one is in Bangladesh. Say, shut them down for inspection.
There will be domino effect.
Yes, because there's a reactor, EPU 1400, which has just had an accident. The businessmen don't want that. Vendor countries also don't want that. So if they are sure that you can't handle it, I can assure you, Manyara, they'll not give you nuclear.
So it's not just a question of Kenya being ready.
The vendor being satisfied also.
That you are ready.
And the agency also being satisfied to whisper to the vendor that they can handle it. And I said from the beginning of this, nuclear power plant is not a hydro. It's not. Nuclear has its owners who want to protect it.
Tell me this.
Yeah.
And you are quoting Vision 2030, quite a beautiful document,
Yeah.
you know, by all standards.
Yeah.
And we are talking about 10 years to go.
Yeah.
Before we become the South Korea of Africa,
Yeah.
the Singapore of Africa.
Yeah.
When you look at where we are and where we need to be in the year 2030 and what we need to do by then, do you think we can get there, in your honest opinion?
I think I would only talk as per my mandate to develop nuclear for Vision 2030. But they have a secretariat. They
in terms of nuclear energy, I mean,
yes.
You see, the two, they move in tandem.
In tandem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nuclear energy was pegged on
Vision 2030.
On Vision 2030.
Yeah.
And from where you sit, you cannot disentangle the two.
Yes.
For you to have nuclear energy, you need Vision 2030.
Yes.
For you to have Vision 2030, you need nuclear energy on the table.
Yes.
So the two must move in tandem.
Yes.
And that's why I'm posing the question to you.
I'm working with the target that by the year 2030, we'll have the demand that was envisaged in the East Coast Power Development Plan.
But you're not working in vacuum.
We are not working in vacuum. Yeah, we are not working in vacuum.
And you're not working alone.
Let the industry do their part.
Are you guided by the industry? Or are you the one guiding the industry?
No, we are not. When it comes to energy, it's like the chicken and the egg. Do I bring energy to Kenya to bring the industries? Or do I bring industry, then I have the demand? So it's something that you really have to juggle.
Well, in the case of Kenya, we are sometimes finding ourselves with so much energy with no demand.
I think also they would debate that, whether, because I don't think our spinning reserve is that much. I don't think so. Because if you look at the suppressed demand in the villages because of the infrastructure issues, then you find that had we connected those where we have the highway, then we'd have a bigger demand. But I think that's an argument for another arm of the government to do that.
Because we have to wind up.
Yeah.
I still want to go back to that question. Even as you continue to explore the options of having nuclear energy in this country, when you look at the other sectors, or what you would call the enablers, the pillars of Vision 2030, do you think they are moving in tandem with the direction that you have taken?
I think the dream is moving in tandem because we have the big four. We have manufacturing, we have housing, we have universal healthcare, we have, which one is the fourth one?
The food security.
Food security. If you take manufacturing, it's so big. If you take those projects in the Vision 2030, those all the parks and the smelting plant in Meru and all that, and the SGR, which was supposed to use electricity, and we do that.
Supposed to.
Yeah. Then you find that demand is there. So each sector should do their part so that we achieve that. But you can't say that the way this one is moving, I don't think they'll achieve that by Vision 2030 because you don't know the strategy that they have. Connecting SGR to electricity can take just a few months. Yeah. And having a light rail in Nairobi can take a few months, or it might be a year, and we have a light rail in Nairobi using electricity. You've seen Germans now You saw Scania has connected to the grid. The buses are moving on the grid in Germany.
That's Germany.
Yeah.
Welcome to Kenya.
Yeah.
Engineer, at that hearty laughter, we have to come to the end.
Thank you very much, my
We wish you all the best.
Yeah.
Let's soldier on.
Let's do it together.
And let's hope that we achieve Vision 2030 and we have all the energy that we need.
It will be good for this country.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And of course, I'm hoping that you still be around. We'll discuss this come the year 2030.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Very good. We've been talking to Engineer Collins Juma. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Nuclear Power and Energy Agency. We've been discussing issues around nuclear energy. You have heard it all from him. My name is O'Brien Kimani. You have been watching Inside Government. Thank you for your time. We'll see you again on Thursday. Bye for now.
Naombea yani stories zinazo trend kwenye mitandao ya kijamii.
See baby now we are doing one. We are doing one.
Interview kali za wasanii wapendao.
Mguu pande panda milima. Aoye izungushie hapo ma. Kama una
ndani ya March of Life kupitia KBC Channel 1 na Pwani FM.
Kuanzia mida ya saa 3 mpaka mida ya 5 kamili asubuhi. Ukiwa nami ni Teken 1GB.
Mimi ni Marco. Keep it locked.
Yeah. Is a make I wanna for daddy.